Susan Gardner here for Municipal World. We're at the 2019 Federation of Canadian Municipalities Conference in beautiful Quebec City. Joining me in the Municipal World Media Center is Mayor Jim Parsons from the City of Corner Brook. Welcome, Mayor Parsons.
Nice to meet you.
I'm glad you could come in today. I wanted to take the opportunity here at the FCM conference to touch base with mayors from different parts of the country about the challenges that they might be facing, and what are you seeing, you and your neighbors in your neck of the woods?
Well, I mean, I would imagine like other sort of small cities in Atlantic Canada, we're facing some economic challenges, particularly in Newfoundland from a provincial scale. But demographics, we have an older population. About, I guess, a third of our population now is over 60 in Corner Brook. And obviously that poses challenges. We're starting to see a labor shortage in particularly the retail and service sectors. And yeah, I mean, there's aging infrastructure, wastewater treatment, all these, the typical things we're seeing in, I guess, Atlantic Canada.
So you mentioned infrastructure. What's going on with that now?
Well, our city is about 60 years old. The infrastructure goes older than that, of course. Towns amalgamated,
yeah.
And so we have things from state of the art, brand new, to 70, 80 years old, and of course. It's like playing whack-a-mole sometimes. We do take, I guess, we have very professional staff who does a great job at prioritizing, but there's never enough infrastructure money. We are very diligent to make sure, I guess, we take advantage of any provincial and federal programs, but it's very difficult, very challenging.
So we're in the run-up, of course, to the election.
Federal election, yes.
Yeah. What kinds of changes would you like to see?
Well, one big thing, I guess, that we're having some challenge with this year, and we have some unique challenges too, because, of course, we had a provincial election recently, and that sort of messed up the timing of some of the announcements when it comes to capital spending.
Right.
But I think that the big thing is the municipalities need to have a greater say in how projects are evaluated and prioritized. And at a high level, I guess, completely understand why the province and the federal government would want to allot money into certain sort of categories. But I think it's important that the municipalities get in there at the finer level of detail and say, okay, look, we have a number of priorities. We think we understand our priorities better than anyone. Let us evaluate. Give us our money. Give us our per capita money, and let us evaluate those priorities and determine which projects to do in what order.
Yeah, and I think we've heard the argument for a long time that maybe it needs to be listened to, that municipalities are really in the best position to decide what it is their communities need and what the priorities should be based on what they're hearing at the grassroots and what they're experiencing, and what's popping up in the whack-a-mole game. As you,
we're literally in the trenches. I mean, we do know we have staff that our engineering staff plans years and years out. So why are we tying up provincial or federal resources evaluating projects when we think we have the expertise? So I think that there's some efficiencies to be gained in time and effort at the other levels of government, and we can produce a better product for our citizens. So it's really should be a no-brainer.
Okay, so challenges, of course, there always are. Mm-hmm. What kinds of things are you? What kind of opportunities are you pursuing?
Well, we're very lucky in our city to have, we have a big, I guess, core business tenant. We have a paper mill, Corner Brook Pulp and Paper, owned by Kruger, is in our city, and it's been there since the very beginning. It's the reason why the city formed. It's very lucky to have a power source. We have a hydro dam that powers it. It produces some of the best newsprint, and some of the cheapest newsprint in North America. It's recently gone under a number of upgrades, both from government funding and from Kruger itself.
Some green energy.
Yes, we had
yes.
recently, I think, about $11 million federal grant, and as well about $5 million from Kruger itself to, I guess it was a drying program for biomass to allow our sawmills in the area to, I guess, get more of their bark into the mill to use as fuel. So it reduces our greenhouse gas output significantly. And there's also a water reduction project which should reduce their water needs by 50%,
Wow.
which is not only, I guess, great for the mill itself, that means there'll be less draw on municipal resources. It also means stability for the mill. The mill, while it's there's investment going on, we know it's sort of going to be a core employer for a long time. We're also very lucky to have a campus of Memorial University, Corner Brook, and as well we have other post-secondary institutions. About 10% of our population is made up of students.
Wow.
So that's so we have that innovation and research aspect going alongside, I guess, our core manufacturing. And the good news is that we're trying to we're getting matches made up. We're seeing them work together
Fantastic.
on research and development.
And that's great when you can tap into that resource in the community.
Yeah, so we get the old and the new together.
Yes.
And combine those things with our beautiful scenery and tourism, other sort of industries that in Newfoundland are steady, you can count on. They're steady growth opportunities. And so, we think the future is pretty bright.
Fantastic. You mentioned earlier around the labor shortage and that becoming a growing issue as well. Well, what kind of strategies are you putting in place for that?
Well, one thing I guess is attracting young families first of all. So investing in our recreation projects and things like that, as well as our social projects. Daytime active top programs and things like that the city directly offers. But of course, we're also trying to encourage immigration. So we are part of a pilot project with Municipalities Newfoundland and Labrador called Welcome NL, Welcome Newfoundland and Labrador, where we work with our post-secondary institutions, who of course are great draws of international students and things like that,
Right.
as well as our employers in the area that are using things like the Atlantic Immigration Pilot Project and a Temporary Foreign Worker Project to bring people in. But this specific project is aimed at really getting them settled, getting them to make this their permanent home, and target individuals that would like to live here and grow their families here. So those are sort of the two-pronged approach to sort of growing that younger population for us.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
On other fronts, what other sorts of other sorts of things are you pursuing for the community?
Well, there's always besides economic development, and again your social there's social sort of aspects as well. We've recently convened, I guess, a committee of all the social services groups in the
Yes.
in the community. Now, in our jurisdiction, we're not responsible for health or healthcare,
Right.
health, those kind of services, addictions,
Right.
homelessness. But obviously they impact our community.
Yes, absolutely.
So one thing we've realized we could do very easily is be the nucleus and really sort of, let's get people together, networking.
Yeah.
So what we've done is we have a quarterly committee, a social services committee, draws on places like our healthcare system, our law enforcement, women's groups, our addictions, homelessness, the churches, and faith groups that provide social services in our community, and start a dialogue on, what are the real problems affecting our communities and how can we contribute together. And so we're identifying a few projects. One we have now is we're working on an emergency homeless shelter for men.
Yes.
Specifically, we have there's never adequate resources, but
Yeah.
women are served a little better in our community than men. And we specifically noted that there's some, homelessness that happens particularly during the winter months.
Yes.
So trying to address those concerns. Other things are related to primary health care for, again, a number of our sort of aging and semi-homeless populations. And addictions, of crime, all of these things that affect our greater community that we may or may not be as a city directly responsible for. We know it does impact our community, and the city's role might not be to fund these projects, but it's at the very least, I think, to bring attention and be a gathering place. So that's something new that we've tried recently, and something that we're very proud of. So.
Well, that's fantastic. I think it's important to to have that kind of collaboration in the community, and the recognition of vulnerable populations, and how you can be a part of having a holistic approach to solving the problems.
It affects everything.
Absolutely.
It affects how we it affects our economics in the city. It affects our tourism. It affects everything. And having a healthy community means having a vibrant young community as well. So no, it's really it's very easy to see the benefits, and I think that's a project that's going to continue for quite some time. So
fantastic. Well, thank you so much for coming in and giving us an update on Corner Brook. I'm Susan Gardner from Municipal World with Mayor Jim Parsons from Corner Brook. We share your stories.